Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. And on this week's show, me and Dan are going to be talking through the 30 pool swimmers that have been selected for Team GB for the Paris Olympics this summer. And Dan, I'm going to kick things off straight away. You've got your wish. We're taking every relay.
Yes, I know. I'm very, very happy about that, actually. I mean, I think the biggest talking point will be those discretionary picks. I think the 23 names that we said previously on the review podcast were already sort of set in stone. But the 7 picks, I'm very happy that we're taking all 30. I think that's a good sign as well. So I'm very happy with the team. I think it's a very solid team.
Yeah, I've got literally pretty much no complaints. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I know there's a few people who've put a few comments on our Instagram posts that we'll get to in as this podcast goes along.
Due course.
But first of all, a reminder of the 23 that we knew. We knew heading into the announcement that we're going. So we had Anna Hopkin, Freya Colbert, Kathleen Dawson, Honey Osrin, Katie Shanahan, Kiana McInnes, Laura Stevens, Abby Wood as the straight-out individual qualifiers for the women's side. On the men's side, we had Ben Proud, Matt Richards, Duncan Scott, Dan Jervis, Ollie Morgan, Johnny Marshall, Luke Greenbank, Adam Peaty, Tom Dean, and Max Litchfield. And then for the relays, we had Lucy Hope, Medi Harris, Joe Litchfield, Jimmy Guy, and Alex Cahoon. Already like 23 incredible names, but there were obviously going to be some discretionary picks because British Swimming has put so much weight into especially the relays that they were going to take backups. And in the 4x2 case, they've taken 2 backups by the looks of it. They've taken Kieran Bird and Jack McMillan, which for me is 100% the right call, especially given how well Matt and Duncan performed at trials. They're going to have busy schedules, so take some heat swims off them.
I just like the fact that you can finish 5th or 6th, and that's good enough to make the Olympic team. That's just how strong we are at these freestyle events at the moment. I love the fact that Kieran's going to be, what was it, 0.2 off on his 400, and he's only going to bring that time down, I imagine, by the time Paris rolls around.
Well, we don't actually know if he's swimming that individual. There's the one caveat I'd say. We know he's picked, but we don't know if he's given the shot at the 400 free. I would say he probably is. I think the 4 frees on the first day.
If he's going, you might as well do. Yeah. And I think what's put him over the edge of actually going on the train or the plane is that 200 swim. Is that 146? To see a 146, I think it was like 9. To see a 146 next to the name, I think that's what's made him get that sort of pick, which I think is the right thing to do.
As soon as the week went along and you saw Matt qualify for the 50, you saw Duncan qualify for the 100, I think straight away you're like, look, they're taking 6 for this 4x2. And because of Kieran's incredibly close call in his individual stab, I think it was an absolute no-brainer. Now, the other relay pick on the men's side, I think you had some questions about this heading in, but I've actually got no complaints based, again, on the exact same conversation, is Jacob Whiston in the 4x1.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the same thing. Again, it's just backup because you've got Tom. I don't know if Duncan's racing the 100 free individually.
I think he said he's probably pulling out of it.
You've got those 3 guys who've got the biggest schedules. Well, not the biggest schedules, but they've got packed schedules. They're racing a good number of times. So if you can throw a swimmer in there of Jacob's quality, as well as Alex Kuhn as well, it's just an amazing backup to have. And then it gives those boys, your Matts, Duncans and Tom, that extra bit of rest to go into the final much more fresh. And that is, both those relays, 4x2 and 4x1, are gold medal opportunities. So I think that's the right call from the selectors to make sure that there's enough backup and those big guys get their rest so they can perform better on the day on their final.
I think it gives some competition as well to those heat swims. Now, we don't want any like flyers or DQs in the heats like we've had previous years, but what we do want is potentially Alex Cahoon or Jacob to be given that shot at a final swim at the Olympics. Say to both of them, look, whichever swims fastest here gets that spot. And that that essentially is on the cards here, and it will keep both of them honest and hopefully a very fast heat swim because of it.
Well, that has happened before.
Yeah.
Hasn't it? I'm pretty sure it has.
The Americans do it all the time.
Oh, they do it all the time, yeah. And actually, that's what brings better performances, so I'm not against it at all. On the women's side, I suppose the other big name is Freya Anderson. Glad that she's got the call up again for the 4x1 relay. How happy are you with that? I think it was expected as well, and I'm very happy, and hopefully she recovers more by the time the summer comes around. I know she's really struggling or has struggled with glandular fever.
Has struggled, yeah.
And the fact that she actually swam a 54 point at trials is actually incredible off the lack of training that she's had. So I'm very happy that she's going, and hopefully she can not come down to a 53 point to help that relay. That would be quite amazing. And then Angharad Evans. That I'm, again, super glad that the relays are all going, and she gets the opportunity to be part of the medley relays, and maybe she does the individual as well.
Let her swim the individual.
I think so.
Like, it was one of those swims at trials where you're just there, just like, there's so much more.
There's so much
tank.
more.
It was just a case of this thing happens at Olympic trials every now and again, and do you know, it's almost a weird thing for Aquatics GB, or formerly British Swimming, to show confidence in taking her and say, I think she can do a job. And like both me and you, we've watched her all year. We know she can do a job. We both think the British record is fully under threat. But it's almost a change in tact of how selectors have viewed Olympic trial swims before. The fact that they have shown confidence in taking her and wanting to swim that medley relay, because they had every right kind of to say, no one's hit the consideration time in the relay or the individual.
I suppose it sparks questions. It sparks questions. Then you might have like Team Jacob Peters or even Team Josh Gammon saying, well, actually, if Angharrad's got the chance, Jacob hit the time in the heats as well, maybe my name should have been put forward as well. So there's pros and cons of it.
I get what you're saying. The big difference is Joe Litchfield won the event, and as a foursome, that team hit the time. Whereas Angharad won the event, unlike Jacob, and the team didn't hit the time, weirdly. And she didn't hit an individual. So it's a kind of, they're two completely different scenarios. I think they very much know she's got a better swim in her. And what this does mean, actually, is that there's 7 swimmers from Stirling going, which is loads.
That's a lot, isn't it? They did very well at trials. They did very well, and we'll hopefully get one of the coaches on the podcast as a guest, just to see the what's happening up there, because it's going quite well, it seems. Any other names? We've missed out James Wilby. I think he was always going to go. Yeah. Another backup for Adam, again, to rest him for the finals, I'm assuming. And because he's going, I assume he'd be doing the individual as well. Maybe even the I don't know about the 200, but maybe the 100. I would put him on the individual myself, but I don't know about the 200.
I'm more on the fence of him swimming the individual. Like maybe there's someone who already knows these details, but I personally think he's just going to be there to back up Adam's heat swims. Because Adam's not just going to have the men's medley, he's going to have the mixed medley, which James can do the heats for as well. So there's 2 swims already. It's just how it clashes with the 100 breaststroke, and whether they want to hold him back just for those relay heat swims, which they're within their right to do. Yeah,
well, he was solely chosen for relays, I think, going off the list. So, I don't think he can have too many complaints if he isn't swimming the individual. But if I were the selector or the teams or the coaches, I would actually put him in the individual. Just because I know he's capable of going a 58 point, which is an Olympic final. And then you never know. If you go a 58, let's say 4 or 5, then you might sneak a medal. You never know. So, but yeah, glad that he's on the team. I think that was a given. We kind of predicted that one. And then I suppose the youngest swimmer going, if I got that right. I think I've got that right.
Yeah. And the
Eva
final
Akara.
Discretionary pick, Eva Akara. So she makes history in becoming the first black pool swimmer to represent GB at the Olympics. Obviously, Alice Deering did it last Olympics in the open water, which was a huge moment for British swimming, and this is absolutely the same. She is still very, very young in the sport, but me and you have said for a while she's got a bright future. We both saw this one coming. And that 4x1 freestyle relay is really exciting for the women with her. Freya's obviously going. You've got Anna on the lead-off leg, and then there's like a multiple of other women.
Well, there is, isn't there?
4th or 5th or 6th. There's so many.
You could put Maddie in there, Abby in there, Freya Colbert's there. You've got a almost like 2 teams, actually. Lucy Hope. There's loads of girls that could actually swim that. So I imagine, your theory where you said like maybe these girls can, the boys can race each other to try and jostle for those 3rd or 4th spots. Maybe it'll be the same for these girls as well, just because there's so many. But again, it's schedule dependent. So someone like Abby's racing quite a bit with all the IMs, and so's Freya. So there's quite a few.
The difference is I'm not sure those women can like rest Anna to make the final. I think she has to swim. So when you say there's competition for places, I think they're going to have to be full strength from the get-go. What this does mean, though, Dan, is that Aquatics GB fill all 30 spots, which on last week's podcast, I think we said we'd love to see them fill it, but we maybe logically, based on past experiences of how selectors do things when swimmers have missed consideration times, would have surprised us. Has it surprised us? Maybe, but I've personally got zero problems. I love it.
Well, before we were talking about taking swimmers for the experience, but actually all these swimmers have plenty of experience. I think Eva was always going to go if you're going to take Frev for that 4x1.
Yep.
It looks like they've put a lot of trust in Anne Harrod, which I believe we both said we've watched her for all this year. And I think there's definitely a British record in there. So why would you not take our fastest ever 100-meter breaststroker? I love the team. I love the fact that all spaces have been taken. So it gives us a great chance, mainly on the relays, I suppose, to give rest to the big guys.
Are there maybe some unlucky misses? So ones who can count themselves right on the fringe of going. And I'm going to... We've already spoken about Jacob Peters. I'll throw Josh Gammon into the same picture. Like if they were going to take a backup for the men's medley relay, for the fly with Joe Litchfield, I think both of those had a shout. By the looks of it, Jimmy Guy is that backup.
Seems that way.
They've got a lot of faith in him from previous performances. I think track record would say fine.
Speaks for itself.
Trials maybe doesn't speak for itself, but we both know there's a better swim in him than that performance on the day. Maybe elsewhere, like Toby Robinson was probably right on the cusp. Probably would have made it. Probably would have made like selection really difficult for the discretionary picks had he have actually hit the time. Like they might have been not frustrated. That's definitely the wrong word, but. I think they love the seven. I think they love the seven swimmers that they've taken in terms of relay depth and relay opportunities. Well, so had Toby have taken away one of those spots, maybe you're not seeing Kieran Bird get selected or Jacob Whittle.
Well, that's the thing. Who'd you take out if Toby were to hit that time in the 15? Wasn't it?
I'm not making that. I'm not making that choice because we don't have to.
Tough call, but maybe
he
that's
goes
part
on
of
open
it.
Water.
Yeah, maybe because he was already going for. He specialises in open water, obviously. He's just very good at the 1500 as well. So they probably took that into consideration, just thinking, well, you're going to be concentrating on the 10K more than the 1500 anyway. He's probably got a bit of a chance to be in the top 10 or maybe even a medal in the open water. I know it's a very tough field. So anything can happen. But in the 1500, we know how deep it is internationally. So maybe they've thought on that sort of side of things. And then the other side of it's like, well, who do you take out if Toby were to hit that? So very difficult.
I'm quite happy with this, with the 7 picks that are going, really. I've got no critique on anyone who's been selected. Yeah,
I just think it's perfect. Like everything I would have picked has just happened, really. So it's brilliant. I suppose we've had a lot of messages or comments underneath saying, well, what do you think about Amelie missing out?
Yeah, I'd send people to last week's episode.
Yeah, we've said it already.
She's got a great future in the sport. She actually didn't PB in the 1500. She was still off the FINA ACA or World Aquatics ACA, whatever it's called these days. So to take her, I'm not even sure they could have. But she's got a fantastic future and she's got loads of time to get to the Olympics. Let's not rush a 14, now turned 15-year-old into a very high-pressured environment where suddenly you say to the world, I've picked a 14-year-old, you're putting her in so much of the spotlight as well, which just isn't fair.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that comes with it. I think it's the right call. Like you say, she's 15 now. Let's say the next Olympics, she does hit the time, she'll be 19. That's kind of perfect, I think, for a female swimmer. And then if you do it again 4 years later, 23 again, that sort of peak ages. Sort of ages between 19 and 23. So I don't think it's a problem. If anything, this might motivate her to keep going and keep pushing on to try and eventually hit that FINA A Cup time. So I don't see a problem with it. I think it's probably the right decision. Plus, she was 10 seconds off the time that she needed, which is actually quite a bit of a distance. So it wouldn't have been a good look on, let's say, Jacob Peters, for example, saying, well, you've taken Amelie, but I actually hit the time. So, I think it's probably the right call.
Okay, Dan, we know the 30 who are going in the pool. So I want to talk medals. And this is a part of the recording of this podcast, which we're going to revisit several times over the next few months when we know a little bit more about the broader picture of the world of swimming, where we know what the Americans are doing. We know what the Aussies are doing, although like in the past few days of recording this podcast, the Aussies are
going quick.
flying.
Yeah, they are.
Let's get some early conservative medals on the door for this squad, because I think there's a fair few here which probably people are like sleeping on slightly, and we'll be conservative, and we'll start on the women's side. And the one that I'm most excited by is Freya Colbert in the 4 a.m. We know the world of swimming in this is rapid. Summer McIntosh is sub 4:30. That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You've got Katie Grimes, who swam a 4:32 at the Tier Pro Series just a week ago, I believe.
Yeah, fastest this year so far, isn't she?
Yeah, fastest this year so far. The fastest this season is Summer McIntosh, if you account end of last year. Yeah. But if Freya can get down another second, down into the 4:33s, maybe even 4:32s, which another block at altitude, and she's still a very young swimmer. There's still a lot to improve on there. A medal, maybe a bronze, is on the cards, in my eyes.
It's very tough. It's a very deep event. I think women's IM in general is extremely deep. But she is right up there. I think she's around that sort of 3rd, 4th, 5th in the world sort of range. And of course, by saying 3rd, you've got a chance of a medal, obviously.
Yeah.
But Summer, I think, is quite far ahead. She might even break the world record, probably, potentially.
I think so.
Casey Grimes, if she can bring down that time that she just swam last week by another second or so, then she might be slightly out of the picture as well. But the fight for bronze is definitely on the cards for Freya, I agree. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
But
I don't think this is...
Yeah, if she can drop a second and a half, that brings her down to the 33, 32 sort of region, and then you never know. So, yeah, she's got a good chance, I think. Yeah, I agree.
I'd love to put Abby forward for the 2 a.m., but just the way... I mean, Kaylee McEwen's just swum a 2:06.
Yeah.
That's the fastest event. Is it the fastest event in women's swimming? Probably not when you look at what Molly O'Callaghan's doing in the 100 free.
It's just deep everywhere.
It's so deep.
Geez. Women's swimming in the international scene is just, it's never been better. It's like the standard has just gone through the roof.
Yeah,
like you just talked about Kaylee McEwen. I mean, the 2:06.9, and she's still got another couple of months to go before
it's not even
Paris
the
comes round. I mean, oh my God, who knows what she can go.
She's not tapered. So I guess that's the conservative look at the women's side. I think maybe Anna Hopkin in the 53 could do anything, but again, that one's very, very fast.
I mean, when you've got Sarah Sosham and then again the Australian girls, I mean,
and Americans, yeah,
it's very tough. Again, anything can happen in a 50.
I think she'll
by all means. I think she finals. Yeah, it's just I mean, again, the 53, anything can happen. Any sort of slip up can be the difference between first and last. But yeah, the Australians are strong. Sarah Sostrom, and then there's always Americans like Gretchen Walsh has been flying recently, hasn't she? I know it's yards, but maybe she can translate it to long course. So yeah, there's a number of girls who can cause podium problems. Let's say.
On the men's side, then, shall I rattle through them and you let me know your thoughts?
Okay, sure.
Ben Proud in the 53. If he swims anything like he did at trials, that's a podium in my eyes.
Yes.
Matt has a chance in the 2, along with Duncan. The 100 for Matt, I'm excited by, but again, that one is one that has exploded over the past few months, so he's going to have to drop his PB to make that podium.
I think you're going to have to go like a 47.1, and that's just a bronze.
Yeah,
like two guys could easily go 46s. That's a quick race. Yeah, he's going to have to really go to medal, but he could. You never know.
Sticking with Duncan, 2 a.m. Anything can happen. He was silver in Tokyo. Leon Marchand would go in as favourite, but people forget about the Chinese swimmer who actually won gold at the last Olympics.
He's gone 154.6, then you've got Carson Foster this season so far. Pretty quick.
It's going to be fast. It's going to be
quick. Yeah, but he's got a chance. Like Duncan in any race, I would bet against. I'd bet with him now. So yeah, he's got a good chance.
Then you throw Tom into that maybe as well. Like he's obviously a world medalist in the 2 a.m.
Yep.
Max Litchfield in the 4 a.m. I'm fairly confident he's going to be in that battle for silver or bronze. Adam in the 100 breaststroke, he is now gold or silver in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Any other individuals? I'd love to say Ollie or Luke in the 2-back, but that event is suddenly stacked.
Yeah, it's deep, isn't it?
It's out of nowhere. Like last Olympics, you're like, oh yeah, Luke's solid on the podium. There's 3 of them. Now it's a whole final of 155s, 154s.
Would you maybe Kiana or Laura in a 2-fly? I know you got some swimmers to go in, like Summer McIntosh, and then there's Deckers, I think, and Reagan
gonna
Smith.
have to drop
so it's gonna be tough. Yeah, and it's not gonna be easy. But you never know. That could be one potentially. I'm thinking outside chances now.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna have to go to the relays here to get some more guaranteed medals.
Okay.
Let's say
On the guys' side, then you've got the 4x2, like that.
Yeah.
That's podium, or well, I'd be pretty disappointed if they didn't at least podium. Men's 4x1, that's a podium threat. The medley relay, I like it, but not as much as I did last Olympics.
well, I like the fact that we've now got Ollie Morgan, who is what looks like a surefire 52, and the top guys in the world are going 52 points, if not 51 highs. So if we can get Ollie down to 52 again, we're in with a shout. And then Adam's swimming as well as he is, and then Matt is probably safe on the anchor leg as well. And it's just the fly leg. Of course, we have no idea. Well, I assume Joe's going to race it, but
unknown. Yeah,
it is a little bit unknown. So I think there's a medal shout, but you got the Chinese who are extremely strong. The Americans are always going to be there. Australia, Italy. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a dogfight, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know who's going to win that race. Probably the Chinese at the moment.
Yeah, at this moment
say.
in time, I'd go Chinese because they've got Qing and Pan Zhangli.
Yeah. And the backstroker, is it Zhayu at the start as well? That's quite solid, isn't it?
But their trials are still to come. We'll find out a little bit more.
Yeah. And then the freestyle relays for the men, I think there's a fantastic chance of medals, if not gold, if I'm honest with you. Maybe the 4x2, if they can do those sort of times again or bring them down again, there's a world record on the cards, I think. So that would be pretty cool if that was the case.
Women's side and mixed relays? Relay? It's just one mixed relay.
The mixed relay. The mixed medley. Again, it's the fly conundrum. Unless you just go Ollie and Adam at the start, and then you put in, I suppose, Kiana on the fly, and then Anna, I assume Anna, or Freya on the freestyle leg. So you kind of have to...
I just haven't done the maths compared to the rest of the world.
Oh, no, it's difficult to judge relays at the moment just because we have no idea where the rest of the world are. But yeah, there's always a chance. I mean, we broke the world record last time at the Tokyo,
with a near perfect swim though.
It was near perfect. All splits were like ideal, weren't they? So it's always going to be tough to replicate that, but there's always a chance. You never know.
So how many medals is that, Dan? I think that's about 9.
9. I think it's going to be more than Tokyo. I think we're in good shape to surpass Tokyo.
I'd love that.
And that's being conservative. I think that there could be 2 medals on a 200 free again. So yeah, I think double figures. Let's aim for double figures. I think that's good.
Okay, that's the medal talk out the way. But before we end this podcast, I want to talk about a topic in the news that has come out recently. And while we've got the time, we don't have a guest. I think it's appropriate that we talk about it. Money for medals.
Yes.
Something that World Athletics have done is they have decided that every winner of a gold medal, they're not awarding money for silver or bronzes. Every winner of a gold... It's coming later, next Olympics. Every winner of a gold medal at this Olympics wins £50,000 or dollars, one or the other. Swimming isn't going to match this. Should swimming match this? Or should... not even match this. Should swimming do something?
I think there should be some sort of financial gain. I know it's never been the case at Olympics because the gold medal should be enough, I suppose. But if you're wanting to keep athletes involved in the sport, they've got to fund themselves. There's more incentive than a medal to actually get 50,000 is actually quite a lot of money for a medal, you know?
Do you know, rather naively, I always thought there was money with a medal. I'll be perfectly honest.
No, I don't think so.
And in my eyes, I can't understand why there isn't. Yes, it's all the professionalism, but the whole commerciality of the Olympics now, like all of the exclusive sponsors, the brands that are actually going to be allowed to advertise at the Olympics, there is money involved, and World Aquatics aren't poor. Let's put it bluntly. They're fine for money if they're sending World Championships to places like Doha and Singapore and I think Beijing.
Yes, yeah.
They are earning money. Swimming isn't a sport that... it is a sport where the money isn't like footballers, and swimmers don't get paid overly well. But when it comes to Olympics, this is the pinnacle of the sport. And it kind of still feels weird that Olympic swimmers earn more of a world medal than they do an Olympic medal.
Yeah, especially when they hit the world record as well. Or any sort of win, actually, for like triple crowns and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, I think there should be some sort of extra reward. And I do like the idea of what athletics are doing. So starting
It's smart.
It's almost like a trial run, if you like. So gold medals get their reward for now, and then next Olympics, then it's the top 3. I do like it. I like the idea of it, and like you said, there is money involved. There is money like in swimming, but yeah, I don't know where it actually ends up going a lot of the time, unless it's just to finance these venues or go to these venues abroad.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah,
It's probably well above our pay grade, but when you've got
it's
athletes like Matt Richards, Duncan Scott, Tom Dean coming out and saying, "Can we not get paid for our gold medal?" We're gonna back them up and say, "Yes, you should be." Like,
yeah,
fully,
especially when we've just said that there could be double figure medals on the cards.
Yeah.
Like that's massive for the sport of swimming. You never know, it could end up being more the next time around as well. So,
Yeah.
and with that 50k incentive, and let's say next Olympics, the silver and the bronze, which would be slightly less, I imagine, then that's massive incentive and motivation for swimmers to go out and do what they can and then inspire the next generation to come through as well.
swimming results by money is kind of a dirty topic actually within swimming, because it's not like to be talked about really. But if you offer any swimmer at any level, like even at counties, if you say here's 50 quid if you win gold, there's gonna be that extra like little edge of motivation, because every swimmer needs the money. Let's be honest.
Again, you see it at World Championships, don't you? How many world records get
Yeah,
broken at
they're
World
not-
Championships
they're not
because they
dumb.
get offered 30,000 or whatever the figure is, you know? So of course they're going to go for it, because that helps them for the whole year, definitely, if not goes into
Yeah.
the next year. So yeah, I think it's a good idea, and that's the only thing that those guys can do is just keep bringing it up, you know? If athletics can do it, then why can't swimming?
Okay, Dan, so that kind of rounds up this week's episode of the Propulsion Swimming Podcast, talking about the 30 picks heading to the Paris Olympics, of which, in summary, we love it. We have no complaints. I'm surprised they took 30. Love that they took 30. Love that every single relay has come in. Dan, you finally had an influence on swimming in this country. Over the next coming weeks, we're going to have some guests from that 30 squad, hopefully some big names who we've had a clamouring for a little while.
We have,
Still
yes,
in the works of securing that, but hopefully that podcast is very much on the way. And I'm going to finish this podcast by just talking a little bit of a separate note about how you can support Propulsion Swimming, because we had a few messages after trials, like we've done an amazing job, we worked ridiculous hours, we actually took time off from our day jobs, that's our holiday for the year we've actually used to cover trials. We have people say, like, how can we support you on this journey? How can we actually help you? Maybe even leave the full-time jobs. So what I hate doing is asking people for money, because that's not right. Like, we do this free of charge. We do this at the goodness of our heart. We wouldn't stop doing this if people didn't pay us, is the simple answer. But there are ways that you can actually support the Propulsion Swimming Podcast. And the first of those is heading over to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast YouTube channel and making sure you're subscribed there. We've got about 700 odd followers, subscribers over there. We need to get it to 1,000 so that we can actually monetize that channel, which means we can just organically place YouTube adverts in there and actually start earning a little bit of money off this podcast. That's all we really want you to do. If you want to say thanks in a different way, there's options there where you can donate money, but that's like, we don't really want you to do that. We just prefer you guys to head over there, subscribed. If you've got to this point in the podcast audio, you're gonna listen to us every week, I would presume. So the best thing you can do is head over to that YouTube channel, subscribe there, and hopefully we can get to that 1,000 mark before the Olympics, where we've got lots of content coming out, and it would be good to earn just a little bit of money to keep us going.
And I hate the idea of, like, it sounds like charity, like we're trying to beg for money, but we're not. We very much do this, like you say, as a bit of a hobby, to be fair.
Yep.
Like, we are fans of swimming first and foremost, and just a little bit of a couple of pennies, I suppose.
It's not even pennies, it's just support so we can put adverts on the YouTube.
Yes, exactly, yeah. And yeah, like you say, from the podcast, we actually earn nothing. So, we just like talking about swimming. But if you are wanting to help us in some sort of way, then all it takes is just a quick subscribe on the Propulsion Swimming Podcast YouTube channel, and that's all it takes. That's all we need. So thank you very much. And that's pretty much all we need to say for the end of this episode.
So we will be back in 1 week's time, and we will have some guests for you, some very, very good guests as we start getting into crazy season. We're going to be messaging a few people abroad as well, so we can hear ahead and after their trials, because it's always good to spread the net far and wide. But until then, make sure you're subscribed over on the Propulsion Swimming Podcast YouTube channel, and me and Dan will see you guys in 7 days' time.
Yeah, thank you for listening, everyone, and we'll catch you on the next one.
You've been listening to the Propulsion Swimming Podcast with Scott and Dan. We want to thank you for joining us and invite you to subscribe to the show, as well as checking out the Propulsion Swimming YouTube channel for weekly tutorials and videos to get your swimming fix. We will be back next week. Until then, we'll catch you on the next one.